Hello and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this week's new episode of Primetime Gaming with Mr. BoomStick and Friends. And indeed, we have a bunch of friends here today. We have a ton to get into. Now, folks, listen, I know that people are going to be looking at the title and they're like, well, wait a second, Boom. What about Bungie? Uh, Viking actually asked that. And the reason why, and so does, of course, Hargeet, the reason why we are going to briefly mention it is because I am currently writing that story. There is a lot of information that I want to make sure that I get right. I've pulled the Jason Schreier story. There's people putting Parsons on blast for him spending the $2 million in classic cars. There are a couple of employees that he just had over the house to look at these cars 2 days before he laid them off. It is a very ugly situation. It is another, I guess you can call it a shit sandwich for PlayStation. We have confirmation from Jeff Grubb that Herman Holtz is now the studio head at Bungie. And this is something that we kind of thought was going to happen based on the reports that if they didn't sell a certain amount of copies of the new DLC, that people on the board were going to be moved and Sony was going to step in and take over. And well, that's looks like that's exactly what happened. But again, I do want to make sure that we have all of the proper information. And of course, we're going to be covering this on Friday morning's Breakfast with Boom. What we're covering here today, folks, are both a major story regarding the numbers, the financials for Xbox. And of course, hey, listen, if you are pro PlayStation and you think just because you don't see it in the title, we're not going to talk about it, we're going to be opening the show covering the 42% decline in console sales. We're going to get into that first, but the other numbers are very impressive. And you know something, folks, I'm here to tell you, and this is not making excuses or quote unquote capping like the guy that was here first said that we were going to do. Sony's numbers are going to be just as bad when it comes to console sales, and so is Nintendo. Is it going to be as high as 42%? Probably not. Somewhere in the mid 30s for PlayStation when those numbers are available, and potentially somewhere in the like 20s for Nintendo Switch. Everyone is going to be down. Xbox happens to be, well, really down when it comes to console sales, but they're making money everywhere else. And, well, that is the conversation. But Black Viking, it is so great to have you back here, brother. Love what you guys are doing. Yeah, I mean, listen, life is life, right? Obviously, you have two shows with your brothers that you do on a weekly basis. We're happy to have you here. I know you're going to be getting into it tomorrow evening on the new episode of we're going to get into it. But brother, how you feeling?
I'm doing good, man. Thanks for having me on today. You hit me up and I was like, yes, I got time today, baby. I got time. Whatever. So I'm happy to be here with Hargeet, you hang out with this wonderful chat. Let's get into it, man.
Yeah, let's get. And again, the numbers came out yesterday. Everyone was reporting on it, all the way from Jez Court and all the way through your favorite journalist. Everyone had an opinion. Some opinions were, well, to be expected. Others were spot on. And we're going to break all of the numbers down. And one of the conversations that we're not seeing happen. I saw a couple of articles. We talked about this the other day, but it seemed to go by the wayside. And that is how PlayStation Plus, its two premier tiers, well, they're down over 50%, which means that people are starting to realize that the value proposition of what PlayStation is offering for the price is just not worth it. And people are, well, it's a bad economy. But before we get into any of that, Hargeet Chani, what's going on, brother? How you feeling?
I'm doing well. Yeah, I guess we have some interesting news. Is my camera frozen?
Now you're back. There you go.
Okay, that's weird. Yeah, and so we got some news as you mentioned about Bungie. That's kind of sad, but we'll get to that later sometime, maybe this week, I suppose. And then the numbers came out, and he said there's gonna be numbers from PlayStation, Nintendo. They're probably gonna have declines in console sales as well. It's just overall that's what's happening. But whatever. We'll get into it.
Yeah. Well, listen. You know what? Again, we have a lot of notes to go over. Obviously, the stories are out there. Some of the information comes the way of Satya Nadella. Some of it comes from Amy Hood. There is a clip that I do have. I'm going to see if I can get it in there where they're talking about someone asked a question about Xbox. Normally, they don't ask about Xbox at these meetings, and they specifically asked about Xbox and the investment and how that was going to matter for investors. Pretty interesting stuff for sure. But listen, I want to open up with, of course, again, this is the elephant in the room. I don't want to ignore it. I don't want people to accuse us of ignoring it. The fact of the matter is that Xbox, for Xbox Series X and S, they're down 42% in revenue for console sales. Is this a big deal? Well, it would be a bigger deal if all they had were console sales. But you see, unlike PlayStation, they don't roll in just having it on the console. Sony is in the process of making a mobile store and bringing certain subset games, some of which were day and date, which of course was Helldivers 2, and it did really well for them. And some others take 3 months, 6 months, sometimes even a year before they find release on PC. This is a slow, adequated way of doing business. That's why Sony's in a bit of a pickle that they're in. But I'm going to go first with Black Viking on this. And again, this is not ignoring the console situation. I know there were some people in the chat that were suggesting that, hey, what about all those Series S numbers? Just FYI, these numbers that we're going to talk about this evening are from 90 days ago. They're old numbers. They're just the quarter that they are reporting on. The recent sales, the uptick, if you will, for Xbox Series S specifically, will be in the next one. And of course, that is due to Modern Warfare 3, Diablo 4, both of those games being in Xbox Game Pass. You also have NCAA 25 only on next-gen consoles and not on PC. So that is also a big deal. But Black Viking, let's get into the 42% drop-off for console sales. Listen, they did not have any quote-unquote bangers to sell the console. That's all about the change.
Yeah.
And we're seeing that change right now. I keep saying, wait until Black Ops 6 gets in there. This is going to be a horse of another color, but let's get your hot take on the number.
Yeah, so the 42%, I mean, it's pretty drastic. It's never good to see that big of a drop off year over year for any sector. But like you said, man, Microsoft and Xbox diversified their portfolio quite well to where if one slags off a bit, the other ones pick up the slack, which is great. But the real interesting thing here, I think we're in this midlife cycle of all the consoles, and it both reported on both PlayStation and Xbox side. 50% of the player base is still on last gen consoles, right?
Yep.
And we saw a huge shift. Like, this is anecdotal evidence, but I've gone to my Target countless times within the past few weeks. Literally on the Xbox side, again, anecdotal evidence, but they'll be stocked, out of stock, stocked, out of stock. Like, they're flying off, and it's all thanks to NCAA.
Yes, big game.
It's the only, like, really, it's like when you think of casual games, right?
Yeah.
That's the only one that's come out so far that's next gen only. And so that makes all those players that are your 2K, your FIFAs, your Maddens, makes all those players and the old school players that fell in love with NCAA and haven't had it in umpteen years, 10 years actually, right?
2014 was the last,
2014
last iteration, and that was in 2013 because they're always a year ahead,
right? So having that come out, and then all these people like, oh shit, I have to buy a next gen console now. So like the Series S, super affordable. You can get a used one for $179, man, like from GameStop, super cheap.
If you trade in your old console, thanks to Gaming Forte, who was obviously a manager of several stores, as well as Psychonauts, who has a couple of stores under his belt, they give either $60 or $70 for your PlayStation 4 or your Xbox One. You take that off, and right now there's a deal where if you spend a certain amount of money, that you over $300, they take $25 off. So if you combine those two, you're getting a Series S for under $200, which is crazy.
It's crazy good, man. But there's a lot of things. Chat probably gonna hate me for this. My biggest pet peeve about this generation has been the marketing of both Game Pass, the console,
Oh yeah, it's been
and
terrible. Yeah.
and how they market. I mean, we saw those reports about pulling marketing funds from or being scrappy with marketing in Europe, and also the marketing of how it's marketed for X Cloud or Xbox Cloud. Me and Hargeet had a good conversation on a couple shows in weeks past about the whole cloud situation. Like, it's not. I wish they would advertise it more as an additive to you being an Xbox owner or Game Pass owner or whatever, versus what they're doing now, with the whole no console, no problem advertisement. I don't think that helps your case at
No.
all. And that's just my opinion. I know other people, it's good. I did extensive testing on it. Unless you got 500, 400, 500 download speeds, it's not great, man.
No.
It's not. And that's my opinion. And I don't know who it's for. Like the cloud only gamer, I don't see it. But yeah, just as more marketing needs to go into the console portion, man. Like, and the games that are coming out by the end of this year, man, are going to be a crazy boost, man. Indiana Jones, Avowed, Stalker 2. I know it got delayed, but that coming out, Towerborn, Replaced. So much goodness coming into Game Pass, man, to where both PC gamers that have Game Pass and people who want to hop into those new games, they're cooking, man. They're cooking.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, listen, there's a lot to get excited about for Xbox, and specifically Xbox Game Pass. Even again, no one's advocating for a price increase. And again, if you are a savvy consumer like me and many people in the chat, and many people on this panel, you find ways to get Xbox Game Pass Ultimate right now today for under $10 a month. You can, if you go look, and you can find it. And if you are someone that is looking to save a couple of ducats, you should in fact go to a few of the websites that we talked about many times before, so you can get your subscriptions on. But Hargeet, listen, we have a lot to get into on the back end with the other numbers that are net positives for Xbox and for Microsoft Gaming. But let's start with the one that is a bit of a conundrum. I know there's a lot of people in here that are saying very similar to what Viking was saying about the no console, no problem. Is that ultimately going to be an issue? Who is cloud gaming for? There's a lot. Microsoft wants their fingers on the pulse of everything gaming. What that ultimately means is that gaming is not going to be on just a console. As a matter of fact, one of the first things that Satya Nadella said during this investors interview, which you see is the first thing I wrote here, they have equated 500 plus million MAUs. What is that? Monthly active users for gaming. Now, that's gaming across multiple levels. That's multiple consoles and platforms. That's PC. That's mobile. That's that's handheld. That's console. That's everything. But they have 500 million MAUs. That's a big deal. Let's get into the concern, because you've already seen it, Hargeet. You're not on social media, but I'm sure you've read it somewhere where someone is hitting the panic button. They're getting out of consoles. They're getting out of consoles. They're not getting out of consoles, folks. They told us they're not. They're going to continue to make consoles, because people like me who don't want a PC, who's not going to game on his TV, except for like a novelty, and who is not going to give up console gaming for my Fire Stick. It's just not going to happen. There are a lot more me's out there than there are people that are going to be saying, let's hit the panic button. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, look, the console numbers are going to go down for everybody. That's fine, whatever. And maybe they stay higher for the other two platforms. Maybe they don't. We don't know what happens with the new Nintendo, whether it sells, whether it doesn't. Like, hopefully it does. We know PlayStation sales have softened as well. Didn't meet their expectations last fiscal. We'll see if their new ones are good. Maybe they do meet them, maybe they don't. There's some number issues on that side too. Just looking at some of the other sub numbers and whatnot. But put that aside. As far as Xbox is concerned, you have to understand that they are multi-tiered. They own the other platform of Windows. Let's just keep that in mind. And that one went up, not down.
Right.
It went up.
Mhm.
And a lot of players have started to, figure out that, I know you guys know it, but like PC is a better platform. No online costs.
Right.
You get
Yeah.
constant discounts on games. You have access to multiple different sub services, including Game Pass. And you can play all the PlayStation games, all the Xbox games, all the other games outside of Nintendo. And well, even there you have emulation if you really want to go down that path. So it's very hard to say that is not a good platform. And who owns that platform? It happens to be Microsoft.
That would be Microsoft.
So they're sitting pretty. With whatever happens next, the next gen of players, they're more centric to mobile and PC, and they're diversifying to say why is that a problem? Like, we own PC, that's good, right?
Yeah.
So their Windows revenue went up. That's awesome. Their Xbox, hardware sales went down, but their subscriptions, their services, all that is up. It's up. Even without ABK, they still made more money. So they're not in bad shape. It's really just what does your portfolio look like? For them to continue with the platform for hardware, that's not an issue. Basically, it has to be at a level where it's sustainable, and it is sustainable, right? They're still making consoles. They can still sell consoles. The problem is if nobody buys it at all, then it's a problem, right? But people are still buying it. There are people like you, Boom, that want to be on a console. You like the Xbox ecosystem. You're buying it. It's fine, fair. It's good enough. You don't have to be top dog to be in the market. You just have to be sustainable in the market. And it's Microsoft, for Pete's sake. They're easily sustainable. Plus, they have most of the killer freaking live games outside of Fortnite. So you just have to deal with that reality, right? They've got freaking King generating billions in revenue. They've got Call of Duty. They've got World of Warcraft, Minecraft, and you can just go on. Like, they are making money. All the flip side and the other major competitor on the platform side is PlayStation. They're having a hard time with any of their live service games. We just got the Bungie news. That's their biggest live game.
Yep.
And that's not doing well. So you compare that to this side and they're sitting pretty. They just keep printing money. Like, that's a good place to be. Now, as far as the hardware, hey, this is why I think things is changing. I've always been, against the idea that cloud is going to be the future, because it just doesn't work. And at some point, your device is just going to have so much power. Why wouldn't you just want to download the bloody game and play it? It just doesn't make sense to me. By the time there's potential for everybody to have a server next door to them, which is ridiculously expensive, but fine, let's say that happened, you'd also have the ability to just run everything locally, because your device would be like, a freaking 3080. And why wouldn't you just take advantage of it, right? So, like, this is just the thing. At some point, the paths just cross where I'm like, I just don't see why cloud is such a big deal. But hey, it's cool. It's a transition technology that's available today. If people want to take advantage of it, why not? Right? But it's been niche and it's stayed niche. It has not grown that much, but it's growing a little bit. But it is this little niche area. Most people want to play locally, and you'd rather just download the game on your iPad than play on the cloud. They have it, right? They have access to it, but it's not what they do. They just download the bloody game and play it. It is what it is. So, I think that path is continuing. That's fine. Mobile store is coming. It is. So they're going to be happy to have that capability there, make their money there as well. But so it's from their strategy perspective, all the things that Phil has been outlining have been kind of happening, right? And the idea that platforms aren't necessarily the limiter anymore, that's going to happen too. It's just the way it is, right? So maybe you'd see a bunch of Xbox games go to other platforms. That might happen. You see a PlayStation game coming day and date to Switch. That happens too. It is what it is, right? Nintendo's probably going to be the last holdout, because, they don't need to change. Unfortunately for Nintendo fans, they're kind of in that realm right now. That may change in the future. We don't know if it stays the same, but right now they sell so much that they do not have to change. They're okay, right? If that changes, if the market changes for them, they'll start making changes too. So I'm not seeing anything overtly negative here. I kind of expected this. There wasn't a lot to push massive amounts of hardware sales. The big game that came out was Hellblade. Hellblade's good, but I've always said that's a niche game. It's gonna be controversial. Most people are not gonna like it. Some people will like it. That's just the way it is. I went into it saying, and I actually loved the game. I ended up loving the game, but I didn't go into it with a lot of enthusiasm, so I wasn't expecting that to be a hardware seller. You can see Modern Warfare or Black Ops coming in saying, oh, maybe that's something that'll do something cool. NCAA, that's the big marker, though. It tells you once you have something that is next gen, having the cheaper console gives you something. It gives you a little bit of a leg up, right? So we'll see if that matters. It may still not matter. Maybe that PlayStation still dominates that. We'll see, right? I don't know if GTA will be the big marker that changes everything. We'll see if there's a huge growth spurt at that point of sales. We'll see. But like, I don't think the numbers are bad. Without ABK, they still grew 4%. With ABK, they grew what, 6%, something like that. Like that's
okay. So the gaming revenue was up 44%. Xbox content and services were up 61%.
Yeah. So it's like, whatever. It's nothing's wrong here. They've anticipated everything they need to anticipate, and they've put themselves in a position to be a very dominant player in the gaming space. Whether you're on their platform or another platform, whether you want a console, whether you want to play on PC or mobile, they're there for you. They've got you covered. That's the whole point. They're diversified. This is what Microsoft does, right? They've got the market kind of covered instead of saying, oh, we're in this little niche right here. That used to be their model. You have to be on Windows. That does not work because you have to be where people are. And so they're like, forget that. If you're on an iOS device, we're going to be on an iOS device. You can get our stuff on iOS, right? That's the world they're in, and that's a much better place to make money. If you want to lock things down and be in a monopoly position type thing, that eventually breaks because people get sick of it. So cool, that might be a way to go. Windows is still kind of in that mode, though there's quite a bit of competition nowadays from Mac and even Linux to some level. So well, whatever. But mostly, I think this is going to be the path forward. And this is why I've been saying long term, I see Windows and Xbox merging. And I see them taking advantage of their superpower that is Windows and say, why the heck aren't we taking advantage of that? Why don't we just say we'll have a whole bunch of different devices from different manufacturers that are Xboxes? They will look like Xboxes. They will feel like Xboxes. They'll boot up like Xboxes. They'll have your Xbox library. But they just happen to have the Windows compatibility. And you can run your Steam games. You can run your Epic games. Like, that's an ultimate gaming device, because who cares what, like, does it matter if it's got a PlayStation logo booting up or an Xbox logo? No, you just want to play games. If you have a device that plays everything, you're not going to go for that. Why wouldn't you go for that? And what if you have choices? You say, like, I want a mid-level performance. I want a high-level performance.
You could spend
I want a low-tier performance, but have a high battery. Sure, go for it. Why not? You know what's
interesting with that theory, Hargeet, and I want to put myself on the stand, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not a PC gamer. If someone bought me a $3,000 PC tomorrow and left it at the front door, said, "Boom, it's yours. Go crazy," it's probably staying in the box.
No, you're sending it to me. Boom.
Well, there you go. I'll send it over to you. It's gonna have to go through customs, but we'll get it to you. We will get it to you. I'm not a PC guy. I know that Everborn Saga, obviously, who's been a part of Primetime Gaming for many, many years, has built a monster rig that works like a console that's hooked up to his very nice TV. I am a simplistic kind of a guy. So what Hargeet is describing, this next generation merging of Windows and Xbox together to make this mythical beast that's going to be releasing in 2026 alongside a handheld, I'm the perfect get for that, because there have been more times than not than people will DM me and say, "Boom, you like Castlevanias, Metrovanias? I got one for you. It's on Steam." Consistently, I'm a side-scrolling beat 'em up guy, and Steam is loaded with some really good ones that will never make it to console. So they're not getting my money. But if Epic Game Store and Steam are on the next Xbox in the form of an app, I have now become a customer to both of those platforms simply because I have access through my Xbox to buy these games. And with the press of an A button, I go into the app, I buy it, I download it, I play it, and everyone wins. I win, the platform wins, Xbox wins, they get their 30%. Everybody's a winner, chicken dinner here. So that is ultimately what they're gonna, you know, it looks like they're heading to. And if that does happen, folks, I'm telling you right now, if Sony doesn't get in line, they're in trouble. They're
Big
going to be an
trouble.
app. They're going to be
Yeah.
an app. I'm telling you right now, there's not going to be a PlayStation 6. Hashtag King David, Mr. 98.9% right at the time, has been talking about that forever. But listen, we're going to get into the numbers. We're going to get into what the 44% gaming revenue up means versus the Xbox content and services being up 61%, because what that ultimately says is that there's been an increase in Xbox Game Pass past the 34 million. I've heard some numbers thrown around, 38, 39. I don't know, because Microsoft didn't say. They said everything but that. I don't know why they didn't say that. Maybe that's an FTC thing or not, but those are the numbers I heard. I don't have that verified. But gentlemen, for the trolls, for the knuckleheads, for the people that just don't understand business, I got to bring this topic up. I've seen it online. It's infuriating. I'm almost embarrassed to read some people's tweets because it's business 101. And when I read it, and I know people are trolling sometimes, but there are some people that are straight up being honest from their heart that this is a thing. And this is not breaking news. Viking and I were laughing our heads off in the green room, and this is what we're going to talk about. And I'm going to go right to you, Viking. Can we please, for the love of Joe, when you get on social media, stop trying to separate Activision from Microsoft? They're one effing company. I love how the goalpost is being moved.
Yeah.
And I've even seen, again, we don't name names here because I don't mind smoke, but I don't have to name the names. Even some journalists going out of their way with bullet points as to this amount is because of Activision. Yeah, that's why they spent $70 billion to get Activision so they can add these monstrosity numbers to Microsoft and Xbox. One freaking company. Viking, why are we seeing the goalposts move in the most embarrassing way?
Bro, I have we wouldn't do this for anything else. Like, take sports, for example. Are you going to separate LeBron James points from the Lakers points? It's like, well, if they didn't have LeBron James, they wouldn't have won. Like, no, that's the Lakers won. Okay, I don't like the Lakers, but the Lakers won. Okay, like we don't do that for anything else. Xbox, aka Microsoft, purchased ABK. It is under Xbox. Whenever they report the numbers on their gaming division, it is Xbox. Down there, you have Xbox Game Studios, Activision, Bethesda. All that shit is combined.
Yes.
Stop trying to separate it. You can be like, like, well, that was a really good get for them, or wow, ever since, Bungie was not a good get for PlayStation. Like, look at the numbers, like you can say that, but let's not separate and be like, well, without this and the others, like y'all need to get off of the internet, bro. Like y'all are breaking my brain, like 100%. I don't get it. I don't get it, bro.
It's frustrating. It's embarrassing. I love how the armchair analysts who don't even actually have stock like I do, that look at actual numbers, that make decisions based on trends, that actually take the time to learn, are out here talking about, well, Boom, if they didn't have Activision and they didn't have Call of Duty, they would be missing 54% of that. Okay.
Bro, we don't do did they do this whenever Activision used to do their numbers? And then, well, if they didn't have King, this like, come on, man. Like, what are we doing here?
It is grifters looking to either just annoy people or just a whole bunch of just silly MFs, bro. Like, I don't even have an answer, but And I don't think Hargeet China is going to have an answer, but let me pose the question to you, because you're not on social media, so you have saved some brain cells from the stupidity. But I'm sure you're aware of it. It's going on literally right now. It went on before we went live in the chat. People literally typing that they were splitting hairs, meaning that, hey, well, Activision without them, it's a big F. Actually, they still would have been up 4%, and you actually confirmed that, because that's a fact.
Yep.
But 4% is nothing. 61% is something, and obviously that's why you invest $70 billion to buy a publisher like Activision. And if you think that those numbers are large now, you just wait until Black Ops 6 releases across multiple platforms. It is going to be a bloodbath. Let's get your hot take on the stupidity.
So, there's another one that just happened now. We just heard about Bungie. Did they separate Bungie?
They did not. No.
Oh, well, they didn't. Oh, okay. I'm curious why they didn't do that. Weren't they independent? Weren't they?
They were.
Like,
They were acquired for $3.6 billion with a B. Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
You know what's interesting about that, Hargeet? When it's good numbers for PlayStation and Bungie, then the press is out, right?
Yes.
But whenever it's bad news, it's on Bungie, right? So like whenever Bungie hits the layoffs, Bungie bad, right?
Yeah.
Whenever Activision has the layoffs, Xbox bad. Like it's crazy.
Of course, it always is, right? It's always the same crap. And I don't know if has there ever been any good news with Bungie since they were bought by PlayStation?
No, there has not been any good news at all.
Yeah, I think they've been very, very terrible stewards of Bungie. But anyway, it is what it is. This is just the standard bias that you have, and in some ways, I can understand. Hey, this is a very large company. Everybody's looking at them, like auditing everything they're doing. More eyes on them because they're too big. Whatever, fine. But there's also got to be a level of fairness when you're trying to be a competitor, that they are treated almost like their competitors are in some fashion. They aren't, though. They are the third place platform. A lot of it is because there's just gained media for being on the other platforms that Xbox just doesn't get, right? They don't get the benefit of the doubt. It's always, everything is negative. Everything is always bad. Everything they do. Why are you even here? What, like it needs to kind of change. People need to change their perspectives, but those biases, they're almost just baked in. I don't know if they're going away. It's very hard to take those out. It's everywhere in every little stupid thing. Like think Chevy versus Ford. It's stupid. They're cars, whatever. But people make massive big deals of it. Whatever, right? Coke versus Pepsi. They're soft drinks. Just whatever. Just like is it the end of the world? No. But people make these big deals out of it. Like fine. But these biases when it comes to media, that's when it gets more annoying, right? Because now you're just taking away reality and putting in your own feelings, and not just dealing with the real world. You have to take a lot of the fails of Bungie and say that is attributed to poor leadership at PlayStation. They can't manage their studios. They're closing them left and right. You have to say that that's the case. How many articles? The second anything happened to 343, what's happening with Initiative? Oh my God, it's the end of the world. Microsoft can't make games. Microsoft can't manage studios. It's all their fault. Okay. How many studios has PlayStation closed? And where are the articles?
There are none.
Where are the articles? They were making games that all got canceled. Where are the articles? Even from their premier studio, Naughty Dog had to cancel its big game that it was working on. Where are the articles? This is the stupidity we run into, right? So it is what it is. I fully expect this all the time. It's just what is going to happen. Phil Spencer sneezed. It's an article. It's the end of Xbox. You might as well just sell your Xbox now. It's over. Like, whatever. Just get over it. Like, everything is not defined by your bias. And that's the problem we run into. There's so much of it. You just see the blatant bias and you're like, come on. Let's just come on. So I won't call out names, but there are plenty of people.
They don't even try to hide it anymore, Hargeet. They literally, back in the days, they'd be slick. they throw it in there and they'd capitalize like the one sentence about about Xbox trying not to be caught out there. But we are all keen eyes, and now they're just like, yeah, you know what? If it sticks, we're writing it.
This was literally something somebody wrote was Xbox is afraid of Concord.
Yes, I saw the article. Xbox is afraid of Concord. Yeah. I think Concord is afraid of Concord. If I may be so bold. Yeah.
I'm like, are you kidding me? But this is the bias. It is what it is. Like their mindset is just like anything that's happening from Xbox is absolutely negative and shouldn't exist. And anything that happens from PlayStation is absolutely positive and must be the best thing that's ever been done in gaming. And it's like, well,
or it's just not even spoken of.
Right?
There's
Yeah,
been plenty of times to where like
of...
bad stuff will happen, and you don't see, Jeff Keighley come out and say anything about it, or you just don't see the reaction you would get. It doesn't provide the same SEO. You know what I mean? Like the spice ain't there for it.
Well, you know what? Again, just for some shits and giggles here, gentlemen. I can name 3 stories that happened in the last 3 days for PlayStation that if with Xbox, there'd have been 19,000 articles. PlayStation VR 2.0 dropped by $200 because it's sitting on shelves. No one's buying it. They've killed the studios that make VR. It's basically their only hope is to get PC players to buy the tech, and in order to be able to play the tech, and I got that from Kay Asante, you're going to need a PS5 in order to load the software, and you have to buy the adapter. So if you don't have a PS5,
you have to have a PS5
in order for it to hook up to your PC for the initial load up. You have to have a PS5.
We're gonna see so many returns on that, bro.
You basically what I'm saying, how it was explained to me is that you can't just take it out of the box, plug it into your PC, and you go. Unless they find a solution for that where you download the software from Sony.
Wow.
No, you're stuck. Which is ridiculous, right? So this hunk of tech is dropped by $200 because it's not selling. The report the other day that I thought was egregious was the PlayStation Plus has 3 tiers. Essential is $80. That allows you to play online and guess what? Have cloud saves, right? That is the only one that did not drop. The other 2, the other more expensive ones, they dropped by over 50% in the month of July because people are realizing, gamers, consumers, customers, that what they are offering in this service is not worth it. That's story number 2. And story number 3, which has been reported upon because, again, it's a lot going on at Bungie, is the fact that, they laid off 220 people, which is egregious, right? Parsons, the head of the studio, went out and spent $2 million on classic cars, even invited an employee that he personally had to the house, looked at the cars 2 days ago, and then laid off today. And I saw her tweet, and it's pretty outrageous. Okay, so those are 3 back-to-back-to-back terrible stories. But what I've seen on the internet is Microsoft down 42% in consoles, completely ignoring the fact that Xbox content and services are up 61%, and that gaming revenue, actual money being made by people playing games, is up 44%. Again, this is the bias that you are talking about, Harky. It is a tale of 2 different companies. And look, I said it. I said it before, and I will say it again. I don't care what console you root for, how many you have in your house. Like me, if you support all 3, it is very easy to see that there is a company that is in decline, i.e., PlayStation, and one that is rising to the ranks, and that is Microsoft, because of the money that they have and the investments that they have made. I don't know what else to say, but I do want to get into the numbers. Black Viking, let's talk about it. Gaming revenue up 44%. Xbox content and services, which of course equates to the Xbox Game Pass, up 61%. and we're not even into the fall with the Avoweds, with of
Right.
course the Indiana Jones, with Age of Mythology, all of these games that are going to be in there, including Black Ops 6 is going to these are going to be small numbers. These numbers are now. Wait
Yeah.
until they have Call of Duty out at the end of the year. You're going to see numbers you've never seen before. Let's talk about it.
So this is, this is another one of pet peeve of mine about them getting out of the console space or whatever, right? Like we have to start thinking about Xbox as an ecosystem. You see those numbers, the content revenue and stuff up really big, right? And correct me if I'm wrong, Hargeet or Boom, but like Game Pass only for their overall business, Game Pass is only about 10 to 15% of that.
Yes,
right?
it's
Okay.
Yep.
The rest of that comes from their store,
yes,
right? So it comes from microtransactions that they get 30% of. It comes from people buying games and them getting 30% of that. It comes from they get 100% of their first party IP. But all that, you have to have a console or a store. Now, whether or not in the future the next, not the next console, but the one after that is actually made by Microsoft, TBH, right? But who cares as long as the Xbox store is there, like in your living room. But this whole they're going to get out of the console business and just go straight third party is nonsense. They make buku amount of money based off of the 30% that they get from their partners like EA, Ubisoft, and every other little game that you buy. They get that 30%. Why in the hell would they ever get rid of that? It doesn't make any sense at all. And now they position themselves with the ABK acquisition, the Bethesda acquisition, and beefing up their first party studios to like, hey, if we slug off a little bit on console sales, we still have PC, right? We have the Microsoft store there. We have Game Pass. We have the console, Xbox store there. Like, and they're working on merging those or whatever. Like, if they're in a good place, man, like anybody that tells you, the console is going to go away, it's down bad, blah, 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 is full of shit.
Yeah.
Excuse my language.
No, that's fine. It's fine. Because again, it's falsities at its finest, because you made a great point. And I think this really does go over people's heads. So what you're telling me is that they would rather not have a console where they get 100% of the monies from first party,
right?
And they would rather that get only 70% by putting it on other consoles and not having a console. Do you see like how that actually sounds?
Or get the 30% from all the Fortnite battle pass money, the Fortnite skins, your Dragon Dogmas that come out, like any big game that comes out, NCAA, they get 30% of everything. Why would they get rid of that? Why would you close up shop? You wouldn't. Like, anytime somebody says that, bro, like, get out of my face with
that. It's ridiculous. It is ridiculous. But look, at the end of the day, there are people having this conversation. Some of it is just, console war nonsense. Some people are just being trolls. Other people are being straight up honest and serious, which is, I think, the real scary part of it. Because my God, if you think like that, then you don't know business, and you probably should refrain from putting these thoughts into words onto social media, because it's just ridiculous.
It is, and I don't know what the point of like making fun of it is. You know what I mean? Like, dude, just go play your games, man. Like, why do I care? Like, console sales being down. If I was like Nintendo, I'm like in the beginning or mid stages, right? Nintendo right now, they're about to break PS2 records this holiday season. With it, you seen the new Zelda Nintendo Switch?
Yes.
That shit it's gonna sell, man. But like if you're a one trick pony, and I don't, no pun intended, right? Like, and you have to have those console sales because your strategy isn't day and date on PC. You don't have your own store on PC and stuff like that. Then it's a little concerning, right? Like, they abandoned the PSVR 2 very quickly because they're not positioned enough to keep going with the PSVR 2 and invest more in it, because let's face it, they're not nearly as big as Microsoft, right? So they can't loss lead like Microsoft can in the event that stuff goes south. So they have to cut off stuff super quick. They did the same thing with PSP, the Vita, like all that stuff, right? Like it just doesn't get supported in the future. So but like with Xbox, man, it's gravy over there, man. Like the ecosystem is great. I have the ROG Ally, I have my PC, I have my Xbox. You know, cloud saves are free.
Yes.
I got, when I have Game Pass, like I'm playing games on all of them, man, especially on the ROG Ally. Like I'm on the move at work during my lunch break. I'm playing everything I can. Like what they've set up and built with the acquisitions and how their storefront works. It's a beautiful thing, man. And the most underrated thing that they have is Play Anywhere. That is the best, like Metaphor Refantasio that comes out by Atlas.
Yes. Dude, that looks really
this year.
good.
It's Play Able. So when you buy it on Xbox, you can play it anywhere. Like it's you're not locked. You know what I'm saying? Like, which is great about this ecosystem. But people hate on it, and I don't understand how or why. But
I don't know. It's interesting. But shout out to Tom Warren, who's in the chat. Tom, welcome to
what
the show.
up,
Thanks
Tom?
so much for. He says this: the majority of the Xbox content and services revenue is now from ABK. The majority of that ABK revenue isn't from Xbox consoles. Hence, why Microsoft is looking for gaming revenue opportunities elsewhere. Yeah, I mean, listen, there's no doubt that that's coming from PC and certainly from PlayStation. I mean, PlayStation is Call of Duty, and it's probably going to remain that way. I mean, maybe we'll see some changes when, of course, Black Ops drops into Xbox Game Pass. You know, obviously the numbers are the numbers. More than 50% of people are still on PS4 and PS4 Pros. Do they move over? Do they, when they see the cheaper version of cheaper way of playing, and in the economy that we're in, I think that's going to turn the tide. Is it going to be an entire shift where it's going to be millions of people? I don't know. I know that I don't pinch pennies, but I definitely watch where the money's going, so I make sure that I have money in the account. And some people, I mean, obviously this is entertainment, folks. It's going to go if you can't pay your rent or your electric bill. Sorry, it's just that's a reality. But Hargeet, let's bring you in on the numbers. Gaming revenue up 44%. Xbox content and services up 61%. Certainly nothing to sneeze at.
Yep, sorry, just unmuting. Yeah, so look, it ultimately they've been positioning themselves to do this, right? The reason ABK was important was to get to those other platforms.
Of course,
they kept saying it. It's about mobile. It's about mobile. It's about PC. It's about mobile. And yeah, there's a reason, because that's where money is. And if you look at gaming revenue, like something like 70% of the revenue is on mobile. And everybody else is fighting for the rest. A big chunk of that does come from PlayStation, but there's also a big chunk coming from PC. So Xbox and Nintendo round out the rest. But mobile is the biggest chunk. It just is what it is. And you have to accept that that's where money is being generated. And everybody's trying to get there. Why? Because they want money. It's kind of how it goes. Ultimately, Xbox is a profit center for Microsoft, and they have to generate revenue and generate profits. And putting themselves in this position is just exactly what they needed, right? To diversify themselves so that, like, hey, if consoles are dipping, which they are, right, across the board, Sony's having number issues, right? They're actually having number issues, and they're starting to fire people, and their one big live service game isn't doing well. Now what? What do you do, right? Whereas Microsoft has several, and that's kind of where it becomes better. If Call of Duty Warzone takes a dip, well, then maybe World of Warcraft gets a little bit of a bump because, hey, they're adding new DLC soon, right?
Yep.
And then and they constantly keep changing things too. And then maybe Overwatch picks up because they added new DLC. Isn't there a Transformers thing or something going on with that as well?
Yes, with Overwatch right now. Yes.
Right. So you get a little bump there, or maybe ESO takes up a bit and Elder Scrolls Online. Maybe that takes up a little bit, or maybe Minecraft continues something and does something cool. This is the thing. They're just in constant revenue streams with those big games. And oh yeah, there's King. There's still King. generating money on simple games like Candy Crush, generating massive amounts of revenue.
Yeah.
This is the thing, right? So they can diversify it out and say, okay, if that segment had a little bit of a dip, no problem, we're covered over here, right? If your one live game, Destiny, fails, what happens? The other one you didn't mention, Boom, maybe we were only looking at short term, of the many Sony failures, they decided to do this stupid PSN thing with the one game that actually worked.
Yeah,
The one game that actually worked. And they
180
screwed it up.
countries can't play that game. Correct. Yes.
They screwed it up.
Yep.
They should have just left it alone. It was totally fine. Nope, they had to screw it up, right? So again, that's on them, right? They have to learn. Whereas the other side, they've already kind of learned all that. Like, let it go. Just let it make its money. It doesn't matter. So this is the kind of thing that's different between the two. And look, one has scale, right? Microsoft has a much larger scale than Sony. That's just the way it is. And they can do those kind of things. They can make a huge bet on buying Bethesda, let alone ABK, right? And they can make those bets and say, this will help us. Fair enough, right? But, I don't see the negative as far as the revenues and all that stuff. It's just that people want to point out that it's because of ABK, and it's like, well, but that was the point. That's why they went there.
Well, that's why you make that kind of investment, obviously.
Right?
It's business 101.
Literally, if you look at their strategy stuff that got leaked, they're like, we want to get one of the big mobile providers. What can we get? They were looking at Zynga. They're like, King is better. How do we get King? And it came up. They got the opportunity. They're like, yes, let's do it. Right. So like, exactly the kind of thing that they have the opportunity to do is like, why not then? Right. If you have the option, why not? Remember, this is the company that said, hey, we're going to get into console gaming. Why don't we buy Nintendo? Right. That's who they are. Right. Like, this is the level they're at. Right. So they don't have that like, oh, no, you can't touch these things. That's very big. They don't care. They don't care. Like the assumption they couldn't go buy Take-Two or something like that. They could. They absolutely could. It's a question of whether regulators would allow it. But they could absolutely go and buy whatever they want. It doesn't matter because they are much bigger. The only thing they can't buy is Nvidia, which is bigger than them.
Right.
Right. So that's off the table. Buying somebody like Nintendo or PlayStation at this point is tougher because of regulators, but they could absolutely buy them. They have the cash. This is the kind of thing, right? So when they have that ability, they're like, well, we can scale by going here. Let's go into that direction. And that's exactly what we were expecting. ABK was always to solidify themselves, right? They are now at a point where they just make money, right? And that whole the stockholders getting or the shareholders getting their returns, that's kind of good now. They're in that position where they can just keep doing that because they have these live service churn games that just generate revenue. They will keep making more. They will keep going after more because that's what you want to do, right? So you might get a shock Grounded that just comes out of nowhere and works great. That's awesome, right? Sea of Thieves out of nowhere. Hey, why not? Let's go ahead. That kind of thing will still happen. Bleeding Edge was one they tried that failed.
It failed.
But hey, you try. That's the thing. You try. If you don't try, you don't get anywhere, right? So we'll see what happens. I guess if PlayStation is to try to do something to make this same kind of thing happen, they could go after ones that are semi successful already and try to see if they can pick one of those up. They've been trying to do that, right? But the one they picked up was Bungie, which was kind of on its last legs on Destiny anyway. Maybe they were hoping, Marathon would be the next thing. We'll see what happens there. I don't know. Well, we'll talk about that maybe a Friday, but like that one's going to be a much more interesting discussion. But from this perspective, they're sitting pretty. They have their games coming. Everybody plays those games anyway. So it's, you got big enthusiasm behind World of Warcraft with massive new DLC coming. So that's probably going to spike that thing up. And then on top of that, you have a new Call of Duty that people are very excited to go in and play. And it doesn't matter. The most worst rated Call of Duty in like history just came out last year. And so 20 something million. It's just the way it is. It constantly generates revenue. People still buy, still play. It doesn't matter. This new one will probably sell like 30 million copies. It'll be something ridiculous. Well, I don't know what happens with the Game Pass effect, right? I don't know if that's going to detract from that or not, but we'll see. I think it's going to scale higher. I think there'll be more players playing it because it's going to be in Game Pass. Yeah. Right. So I think this is going to hit like 35, 40 million because it's in Game Pass, but we'll see. Maybe I'm totally off with that, but I think that this game is going to even do more. And it's going to start the process of people thinking Call of Duty Xbox, not Call of Duty PlayStation.
Yes.
Right. And we'll see what that does as far as putting the seeds in their head. Like, well, maybe I should be on that side. Right. Hey, they've got all these other things as well. I remember Halo and they still have that. Let me go play over there. Right.
Yeah.
And you could watch the E-Day trailer and cry and say, oh, I want to play that game. Come on. Look, this looks awesome. Right. And you know it's coming. Right. So like these are the things at some point you just, we'll have potential for people to want to come back to the Dude Bro Shooter box at the Xbox, right? And all these games are in Game Pass. So enjoy if you want to play them. If not, whatever. Stay on PlayStation or Nintendo. That's fine too. And again, Nintendo's going to get Call of Duty. They're going to make money off of that too. Right? PlayStation will continue to have Call of Duty. They're going to get money off of that too. So they're happy either way. They just take money, put it in their bank, and the other side can keep looking for live games that actually work.
I mean, obviously, again, you mentioned Marathon. That is a game that is, it looks okay. It's not a game that I'm going to play. I'll tell you that right now. But
what's the hook? I don't like. Okay, maybe people.
Yeah,
like
we haven't seen too
but,
much of it.
Right.
Like,
I don't know.
It's really weird. I'm like, I know it wasn't Firewalk's decision. You know what I mean? Because it's very weird to put out a game that's supposed to be traditionally a free to play game like Concord. And I'm gonna admit, like, I had a good time with it, but there's no way I'm convincing any of my friends to pay $40 just to try it out. There's no way. There's no like if I was like, yo, let's get on some Concord, it's like, all right, cool. And they go there and it's like, why is it $40? And I'm like, like they're like, no, man, I'm good. There's so many other games of the same ilk. The Marvel Rivals is going to eat everybody's lunch whenever it officially comes out. Frag Punk wasn't bad at all. Free to play. Valorant just came to consoles. What are we doing? Like, what are we doing? Call of Duty comes out literally like early access a few days after Concord does. What are we doing? Like, what's going on?
There are a couple of things I can almost guarantee are going to happen with Concord. It's going to be delayed. They have to figure it out because they cannot launch that before Call of Duty. That's just ridiculous. And the other thing I think is going to happen the same way. Destruction All Stars was originally a $70 game, and right before the PS5 launched, like, hey, if you have PlayStation Plus, it's in there. Actually, it wasn't a terrible game. I actually played a little bit of it. Again, it's like Twisted Metal meets Fallout, Fortnite. That's what it was like.
Yep.
I would have much rather a Twisted Metal game, to be honest with you, but such is life. That was canceled. You know what? We got some time, gentlemen. I want to go to Hargeet on this. We're going to cover it in more depth. I have a lot of articles that I have to read. I have a lot of notes to do tonight after the midnight hour hits. So I do my best writing. Let's talk about what happened with Bungie. I have the press release in front of me. A new path for Bungie. This was 9 hours ago by Pete Parsons, who was the studio head. I don't know if he's the studio head anymore because I do have a tweet here from Jeff Grubb where Grubb says this was 7 hours ago. Someone had responded, "Hey, Jeff Grubb, have you heard anything on this situation with Bungie?" And according to Jeff Grubb, this is his official account. He says Herman Hulse runs Bungie now. All right, so that happened. And he goes on to say, also, they attempted to soften the blow by sending many people from Bungie into SIE instead of just cutting them. I thought the number of jobs lost was going to be closer to 350. It is 220. That's still 220 humans. That's a lot of jobs. That's a lot of people that are unemployed. But let's get into it. Hargeet, I know you're abreast to what's going on. Again, here on Double Barrel Gaming, we're going to cover it in more depth on Friday morning's Breakfast at Boom. I have to read everything. I want everything in front of me. I want to do proper show notes to be able to go and just read it verbatim. But let's talk about this because Bungie from inception, from the initial report and of them being acquired for $3.6 billion. I think many people in the community, including myself, it was a bit of a head scratcher. I don't know why a lot of people equate that to them just needing to buy somebody or something after the ABK announcement. Maybe that's what it was. Bungie was considered by many, Hargeet, as the quote unquote savior for PlayStation in regards to their live service games, which they have none at the time of this purchase. They they had The Last of Us 2 online in production. We heard that they also canceled a Twisted Metal game. That's disastrous. There is, of course, the Spider-Man multiplayer or multiverse Spider-Man game that looked absolutely amazing from Insomniac. That was canceled. There was also rumors of a quote-unquote military shooter, which I believe, this is just me, that it was SOCOM. I could be wrong. I'm probably wrong, but it's probably because I really want a new SOCOM. So now they go and they get Bungie. Bungie comes out, and it honestly has been a bit of a shit show ever since. Let's get into what is going on at Bungie with PlayStation, because it appears that hostile takeover of people being removed off of the Bungie board because of lack of profits for their last DLC.
Yeah.
It looks like it happened.
Yeah. Look, we had I don't know if it was rumors or if it was actual direct information from them that if the final shape, I think that was the last DLC, did not do well, that there could be major changes coming to Bungie, right? We definitely saw the layoffs they had before. They were trying to restructure themselves to be profitable enough to maintain their self-publishing, I guess, like the independence. I don't know if there's something specific in the language there, but they were kind of on their own, even though they were owned by Sony. But yeah, that was apparently going to end. The board was going to be split in. There was 3 people, 1 Sony, 2 Bungie, and then it was going to flip if they couldn't maintain their profitability to become more Sony than Bungie. Yeah, this is kind of unfortunate. It is what it is, but everybody saw it. We saw this. The final shape was not doing financially well. It did okay. It didn't do terribly. It did okay, but and it was apparently critically well received.
Yeah.
But it did not bring the customer base back, the player base back. It just didn't. And unfortunately for Bungie, that was the final straw. It kind of meant that they had to let go, right? So, J-Rock had, I think it was on your show, said that, who saves the savior?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know who does save the savior. It's not like Sony has a pedigree of understanding live service. And if you take a look at what Jim Ryan has done up to now, I am left a little confused. Like, he said that we're going to learn from the mistakes of the other folks that have entered in this market. And so far, I'm not seeing the learnings. Taking your premier single player campaign studios and telling them to make live service games, that's a massive fail. I mean, you've just seen it over and over. It just does not work. And yet that's what he wanted to do. And so when Factions 2 is made and it's not live service enough and they cancel it, right? Where the people making it are like, this is a fun game. We think people will enjoy this game. We're loving it. And they're like, yeah, but it ain't seeing the light of day because it's not live service enough. And so, well, what did you expect? It never works. It never works. Like, this is just not a good formula. And yet that's exactly what they did. They took a lot of the Bungie people to make those other studios work out. It didn't work out, and here you go, right? And so now Bungie suffered for it. They've always had kind of an iffy, run without having a backing, right? So they had Microsoft to back them with Halo. That was probably their heyday, and then they had Activision to back them with Destiny, and they had access to a lot of the studios at Activision to supplement theirs, to give them the content, right? And that's how they were able to make that work. And then they left it. And then since then, they've kind of floundered. They've had some good DLCs. They've had some good times, but mostly it's been kind of meh. And then Sony picked them up. Sony, of course, could never help them because they don't know what to do, right? This is kind of the problem of live service. It's not easy. It's not an easy thing to figure out. To the point of, yes, Bobby Kotick's an asshole, But good God, did he pick up the right things at the right time and do the right moves to make that Call of Duty thing the engine that it is right now, and to make it so that it continues to sustain the way it does? That is not an easy thing to do, but he pulled it off. And so you have to give him kudos for that, even though he's an asshole. But this is the way it is. You need to have that kind of mentality. You have to understand what's going to make it work. What do you have to invest? How do you get your revenue and make it profitable? And he made it happen, right? And so again, this is not easy to do. You have to have a ridiculous offhand wonder like Minecraft come out and just like continue to sustain. That's not normal, right? Roblox. Who thought that was going to be the thing it is? But it is, and it just continues to keep getting consumers for it, and it keeps working. Like, it is what it is. Who thought Fortnite would be the game that it is, right? But it is, right? It started to flounder when it came out, and they decided to copy the PUBG model, and suddenly it became this big game. It's sad to see that Bungie is going to be what it is. I was hoping Destiny would be a next level Halo. To me, it was very disappointing. It did not meet that level for me at all. I was very disappointed in that campaign. And then the raids thing, I did that a few times, and I'm like, yeah, okay, I don't care. It's just not something I'm going to spend a lot of time on. I wanted more story. I wanted more, give me that character development and what's going on with the universe. And I know they kind of did that with the DLCs, but I'm like, you lost
Taken
me when
King
you
was
do
a
that.
turnaround for it for sure.
And fair enough, but I'm like, you lost me when I paid $70 for your game, and it still didn't give me $60 for your game, and it didn't give me a freaking campaign that I cared about.
Well, the cardinal sin with that was the fact that you had to go outside of your actual game to get information on the game. Yeah, that's not.
I didn't need much when I put in that Halo disc in my freaking Xbox, and I land on that Halo, and I'm like, what is this? And I was hooked on the game. I didn't need anything external to make that happen. It just worked, and that was the thing that I just missed. I didn't see that. This happens. Most studios change over time. A lot of the original talent is gone, right? They moved on to other places. It is what it is, right? So, we'll see where things are. Even up to now, Halo is still, to me, better than Destiny. I know a lot of players like the raids and the things that Destiny brings to the table, and I'm sure the content is good. I just lost it when I couldn't even play the main campaign, and I'm like, I don't care about these characters. It's just boring to me. But either way, as far as Bungie, what happens going into the future? Anybody's guess, right? How are they going to do better when the folks that made all that stuff work aren't the ones running it anymore? I keep hearing how that somehow Sony is going to bring an execution mentality to it. It's like, execution of what? You don't know how to make a live game. Look at your history. It doesn't work. You don't have it. It just doesn't work. So, how is this going to work? Even Microsoft, who has that capability, still bungled it with 343, right? It's not easy. It's just not. And so we'll see what they come up with, and if it's going to be better or worse. On top of that, several hundred people more now lost their job. This sucks. It is what it is. There's a super chat that's sad. I don't know.
Yeah, we're gonna get to that in a second. Yeah.
But this is the world, right? And so it's sad that this happened, but it was predictable. We knew it was coming. Right? Jeff Grubb had mentioned this maybe a month ago that hey, there are going to be some issues coming up with Bungie based on the performance of Final Shape, right? So it wasn't something we weren't expecting. We were expecting. It's just a question of when, and here it is. It drops, right? So. Sad. It's sad. It is what it is. Bungie is not the Bungie of old. And that happens. I don't know if you could say BioWare is the BioWare of old either, right?
Oh no, they're a shell of their former self for sure.
Yeah. We'll see what happens with the next Dragon Age, and they're working on a new Mass Effect, and my hopes aren't there anymore. But I hope it's still good. But certainly it's not that team that made the continuously awesome games that they were doing, right? So we'll see what happens. What this leaves Bungie with, where they go from here. Is this going to be the same roadmap for them? Are they? I think they were trying to retool to make the next story arc for Destiny. Is that dead now? Are they moving on to Marathon? We're probably going to find out more, as you were saying, Boom. We have more to get, right? We have more news to get still, but we'll find out over the next months. What is the path for Bungie going forward? But yeah, I'm saddened by this, but on the other hand, I'm not surprised, right? Because we all knew it was coming. It's just a question of when, unfortunately. But I don't know that Sony can do anything about it. I don't know how they fix it. We'll see. But so far they have Concord, which is looking like meh, and they're deciding to charge for it when they should not be. That's not a good.
I don't think people would play
decision.
it even if it was free. Like honestly, it is very paint by numbers with the characters.
Yeah,
it just is.
Which again, maybe it works, maybe it does. But if it's not free to play, and your major consumer that plays that kind of game is expecting free to play, it's just you can't keep shooting yourself in the foot like that. But again, I don't know. We'll see what they do with it. But to me, there are a lot of management issues at PlayStation right now, and they have to, like, in my opinion, and I know the industry won't care, but in my opinion, they have a lot to prove because they kind of banked on their big cinematic experiences, and that is failing them now because they cost too much.
It's completely unsustainable now.
Exactly. Yes. And now once that's started to fail, they were like, oh, let's pivot to live service. And I'm like, pivot to live service, that's not something you just do willy-nilly. Nope. You have to come up with a game that people want to play, and that usually comes from somebody who has a weird idea, and they just put it together. A PAL world out of nowhere. Like, okay, I'm gonna copy freaking Pokemon, but make it Pokemon with guns, and let's see what happens. Okay, and like, what was it? 10 people did that or something? Like 12 people make that game?
Yeah, it was
25 million players later.
Yeah,
right. You can't just manufacture it. It has to be something somebody's passionate about. They're just like, I think this will be fun. Let me play it. Let me try it. Oh, cool. It worked. People liked it and they played it. Right. I don't know that you can go and make a cinematic, which is what Concord is, right? A cinematic, hero shooter or a cinematic arena shooter, and just say, "Oh, this is going to work." It's not.
Yeah, I think the problem with Concord is like there's no, like, you're charging $40 for one. It's labeled as a cinematic hero shooter, but like you don't get to know the characters too well. Like there's no PvE, like Overwatch promised, but that didn't happen.
Right.
and the characters just come off as like Temu Guardians of the Galaxy, and it's like it's not good, like Wish Guardians of the Galaxy.
I would have said Dollar Tree, but it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah. Oh, boom! You say that because you're trying to get sponsored, huh? You're trying to get a nice little Temu sponsor.
Look, I mean, they still have a strong brand, which is what keeps PlayStation going. So hopefully that will continue to allow them to sustain, but they do have a massive issue to go figure out, right? So it's not as simple as like, hey, they just make these bangers. Do they really? And if it was that simple, then why aren't they investing in bangers? Like Sony is not investing in that. They're investing in movies. They're investing in TV.
They're also investing in music, because you see all the money that they spent on catalogs recently, millions.
So
millions of
that's where they're seeing their growth, and they're trying to take all their game IP and put it into TV and movies, right? Okay, fair enough, but like you kind of have to sustain this, like, gaming thing too, or what is the plan, right? So I will see. This is just a big domino, unfortunately, that happened to have to fall. I hope it means that they're gonna like retool and figure things out. Good luck to Herman and the team. I don't know what this really means for Bungie. I also don't know what it means for Firewalk, right? Like, is that gonna be like closing next year or not? We'll see. We'll see. There's just a lot of turmoil on that side, but they still have a strong brand. They can still pull it off. They just have to kind of turn things around a bit. They have a strong brand. Nintendo was able to pull it out of
they're still the market leader. Let's not make a mistake, ladies and gentlemen. They are still the market leader. They are still selling consoles, but I think where we get into the weeds is the mushy middle, right? Obviously, Concord is expected to be. They were hoping Concord was going to be their Helldivers Part 2, right? Helldivers 2 came out, did bank numbers, not so much on the PlayStation side, mostly on PC. I mean, it was like a 70-30 split. And as it gained popularity, more people played it on PC than they did on PS5. That's the numbers don't lie, folks. That's a fact. And it doesn't look like it's gonna hit. It looks like it's going to be DOA, and that $40 price point at inception is gonna. People just not going to tune in. They're just not. Viking, let's get your hot take on what's going on with Bungie. This is something that, like Hargeet said, we're not surprised by. The writing has been on the wall. Obviously, the $3.6 billion, a lot of that money, or not a good chunk of the money, was for retention, keeping people, right?
It wasn't for buying cars.
Well, it wasn't supposed to be, but apparently someone on that team bought a lot of them, actually. But it's interesting because when it was announced by Jim Ryan and company that they were buying them, it was for how the wealth of knowledge that came with the purchase of how to sustain games as a service. J-Rock said it months ago. Who is going to save the savior?
The savior.
Well, it's not going to be PlayStation. If they can't get Concord to work by Herman Holtz taking over Bungie, is he going to make it better? I'm going to tell you this right now. This is you. If you think that there was an issue before with keeping people, this layoff is going to leave a lot of people feeling very uneasy, and there is going to become a retention problem at that company if it's not one already. They've already let 220 people go. That's just the start. I think that if they can't figure it out, there's going to be more. It's going to be devastating. This is a year that has been egregious for layoffs in the gaming industry. It is unbelievable how many people have lost their job in an economy that nobody in this country wants to admit that there's a recession. It is bad. And again, this just makes another ugly notch in the belt of PlayStation that listen, they are floundering. I know that people are going to be mad at me and throw the virtual tomatoes that, but boom, they sell consoles. Okay. You told me that 100 times. They're selling consoles. What else are they doing? This is what I want to know. If you have that answer, let me know. The super chats that have come in, don't worry. Before we get out of here, I'm going to read all of them. I'm sorry that it's just been one of those kind of shows that's a little bit crazy. We're going to get to them in a second. Viking, let's get your hot take on the Bungie situation.
So you brought up a good point about retention for the studio after all the fallout from this, but I think I'm more concerned with let's say Avalanche, for example. Do they want to be bought by Sony at this point, knowing what happened with Bungie?
Great point.
Right? Because like when you think about it, they had layoffs to begin with. You guys aren't making money, right? And then from all Destiny fans that are out there, they put out a banger, right? Final Shape was that thing for them, right? It just didn't. So the people that worked there put their hearts and soul into it. They knew Sony was serious about axing people if they didn't get the money or make a good game or whatever. They make a good game or good DLC rather. Highly reviewed by critics, and then still get axed, right? So it's like if we as a studio get purchased by Sony, we make a good game, right? It's highly reviewed, and the same could be said for Hi-Fi Rush. I think we were all upset about that, right? But like whenever you look at something as big as Bungie, and what's that mean for other studios that are looking to get purchased? Like, would Sony be a good fit at that point? And probably not. They don't know what they're doing right now. You know what I mean? And it's not the fault of the studios, Insomniac, Naughty Dog. Like, they're all really good at their craft and make the games that creatively what they want, right? But now you got higher ups and investors, like they want that Fortnite money, they want that Call of Duty money. That's why they had that big push towards gas games, right? And they don't have enough patience and risk take. They can't do the risk taking for that, right? Like to do that. Like we saw Foam Stars, Concord. And somebody said in chat, like Concord's game gunplay is fun, right? Like I had a good time with it. It's just with that $40 price point, and from what I've seen from it, it's just not going to succeed.
Well, I mean, just to add some context to what you're saying about about Concord, you played it, you enjoyed it, but here's the problem: you also played Marvel Rivals, which is
free. Boy, don't get me started on Marvel Rivals.
Right. So I'm using Venom. I'm telling you right now, I'm gonna rock Venom. He is dope. Right.
Yep.
You're going up against a free-to-play game right now. They just announced Robert Downey Jr. as Doom, Deadpool Wolverine making bank. right?
Mm-hmm.
So people are they're gonna flock to that. Oh, and PS, by the way, Concord launches a couple of weeks before. Oh, I don't know what is that. Oh, Black Ops 6.
That's right.
Dude, it's just it makes no sense. It just doesn't.
Yeah, it really doesn't, man. So like, what's happening with Bungie is extremely unfortunate. Um, and I'm glad, like, is it Bethesda? I believe that's finally unionizing. Now I
Yes.
understand that unions won't help with most layoffs, right? But they do add a certain level of protection
They
for
absolutely do.
employees.
Yes.
And what was happening with them, people being notified by Twitter, trying to log in, not having access anymore, like quiet fired, like the people give these people that made you millions of dollars some
Decency.
dignity, man.
Yeah.
Like, so, like, it's just ridiculous, dude. Like, more and more, like, every year, this goes for all sides with these layoffs, man. Like, it seems like if I'm young and I want to get into the gaming space, I might not want to, because it's
Yeah.
seeming more and more like a gig job every day, you know, instead of a career. It's really trash, man.
I mean, this is a deep hole, folks. You could a rabbit hole that we can go down. If you're, yeah, pause. Hold on a second. No diddy. The if you're a young person in your 20s, and you look with gazed eyes, right, glazed eyes, if you will, of how incredible it would be to work at a Sony, a Nintendo, an Xbox, you know, or potentially a Naughty Dog. Oh my God, my favorite game of all time. The student debt that you're going to get is going to be
Mhm.
ridiculous, and
Yep.
the job security is very scary. Like it is super scary. People that have 15, 20 years in this industry are now trying to figure it out. That's terrifying. And
And you have to move to where these studios are, which
well, we have a
most
super
of
chat
them
that
are.
actually talks about that. Yeah,
Yeah,
you're uprooting yourself,
yeah,
probably paying for this move to move to this, move Seattle, move to San Diego, to move San Francisco, to
yep,
California, which is where most of these studios are. And now you're SOL, which is
yep.
not good. Like I said, folks, listen, this was just a brief conversation, kind of give our hot takes of what's going on in the coming days. I would imagine as soon as tomorrow, we're going to hear even more of what's going on for the quote unquote new path for Bungie. I don't know if it is a path that I would want to take. I think that Viking really does hit it out of the park, where if you are a studio that's solo and PlayStation or Sony Corp comes knocking, you see what they did with a lot of their studios that they purchased. They've closed them. Firesprite could be next, and Bungie is hanging on by a thread. So it is it's
Yeah.
a it's shaky ground for Sony Corp right now, specifically PlayStation. Let me get these super chats and we'll get everyone out of here. Again, it's the summer. It's a little bit of a shorter show. Again, tomorrow at 12 p.m. I'll be sitting down with C Money. I'm writing that show right now, and of course, Friday morning's Breakfast with Boom will be full on coverage of everything. I'm going to read the press release from Bungie verbatim. You're going to get all the information, and I would imagine that there's going to be even more that surfaces from the likes of Tom Warren, who's in the chat, Jason Schreier. You're going to see Tom Henderson. You're going to see Jez Corden. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people reporting on it, and we, of course, will use their work as we do, and we'll try and get to the root of what's going to happen next for PlayStation and Bungie. Kay Asante, who is not here today because he's traveling. He's been a channel member for a whopping 27 months. Kay, it's great that you got to New England with the family safe and sound. He says salute to the great panel and chat. Greetings from New England. Sorry, I couldn't be there. Traveling is tiring, but I'm loving the show. Well, brother, you get some rest, enjoy the time with the family, and we'll be talking soon for sure. Paul Moro drops a very generous $5 super chat. He goes on to say, you would never see Microsoft pull a grift like PlayStation did on Bungie. Xbox let Toys for Bob go, do their own thing without malice. Microsoft also cleaned up ABK. Well, they're currently cleaning it up. That is for sure. There's no more Bill Cosby rooms at ABK. So thank Christ for that. Resting Craigface drops a very generous $10 super chat. And see, this is one of those stories that we were just talking about. The in between the lines that as gamers we don't see. Well, he put it out there, folks. He goes on to say this: today is a sad day. Boom. I found out that my cousin, who moved away from her family in Florida all the way to Washington to be a part of the Bungie team, was laid off. She was part of the narrative team. That is terrible, sir. First of all, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for the generosity, but of course, our hearts go out to your cousin, who now is without a job. Hopefully, she'll be welcomed back with her family. Not the way she wanted to, for sure. I'm sure that she wants to be a successful developer. Hopefully, she gets moved to another part in Sony. Maybe she gets hired by someone else in the region of Seattle, because there are a lot of developers there. And of course, E-Rock Math drops a very generous $2 super chat and says, PlayStation is creatively bankrupt. I wouldn't even push back on that. I would say that you're onto something. I think that we don't know what some of their bigger studios are on about, because they haven't told us. There's no roadmap. I know that Balrog is supposedly working on a space, game in the lines of like an Uncharted, or maybe it's going to be Starfield-esque type of game. Whatever that guy touches turns to gold. I don't know whether you like God of War, you don't. I happen to like that team, so I'm looking forward to it. We don't know what Naughty Dog is doing.
They do have Astrobot, though. Astrobot's going to be cool.
I'm not going to front. I'm very excited.
Yeah.
And you know what's? I'm going to pay the full boat. I don't know if it's $70 or it's not, but I'm buying it. And you know something? I'll say this publicly. I'm not ashamed. I'm going to pre-order the controller.
Me too. That controller is dope.
It's got the eyes that blink. It's freaking dope.
It's cool.
I'm going to buy both the controller and the game. And I platinumed the last Astrobot. I love that little dude. That's a great franchise. But I'm a platform guy and also a nerd, so it's fine. But listen, let's get everyone out of here. We'll start with the Black Viking. Brother, sell the brand, because obviously what you do at the Longhouse Gaming Podcast twice a week with your brothers, and actually, well, they're your family. You do a great job. Man. You have a lot of fun. The opening of the show is probably my favorite, because people are dancing and they're bouncing to the beats, and it's always a nice jam. And I like that you start off with what you're playing and what you're watching. Talk about it, brother. Tell people one of the best new shows of 2024, ladies and gentlemen, the Longhouse Gaming Podcast, right here. Sell your brand, brother.
Yeah, thanks, man. We just started, man, December, and thanks to all the community members too, man. They helped get us off the ground, especially this channel. We started in December. We're already up 2,100 subs.
Wow, dude, that is great.
Yeah, man. And our whole thing, we just talk about good games, man, all sides, PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo, what's new in the news or whatever. We talk about TV shows. Yeah, people talking about The Bear. I'll be going on tangents about The Bear. I freaking love that show.
Now, is that a cooking show? I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
Is that what that is? Because this is Boom and I like cooking shows.
Listen, you will love it.
Okay.
You will love it.
Okay.
It is
all right.
Probably I think it's my favorite, one of my favorite shows of all time, man. Like
nice.
it became that after season 2. But yeah, and we started doing right now, the whole year, all of our super chats, just like Boom and Iron Lords just had a podcast where they did some stuff with Ben Kenobi, and I saw you on there, Boom, raising money with Gamers Outreach and stuff.
Yes.
So all year, all super chats, memberships, all that from viewerships, merch, all that money goes to our local Boys and Girls Club. We're going to be buying them Xboxes, PlayStation.
Mrs. Boom and I are going to be dropping something at the end of the year. We'll talk privately.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. So we're working for free this year. Our first year, we're just trying to learn the game. YouTube is a hassle sometimes, but man, we have a really, really good time. Every Tuesday and Thursday, 8 p.m. For about 2 hours. Super good, man. I always have great guests on. Boom, I got to get you on one day, man.
Yes, we got. We're
and Hargeet, it's been a while. It's been a while, man.
Yeah,
Gotta get you
yeah.
on too. But yeah, it's always a good time over there, man. So, but yeah, thanks for having me on today, man. Love the conversations.
Well, it's great to have you. And of course, all of the information for both Hargeet and Black Viking are in the show notes. If you want to be generous, you get in there, you click once, you find them, you sub them. If you're feeling super generous, you hit the bell icon and you'll know every time they go live. And if you're feeling extra cool and you want to kind of just let your hair down, as the kids like to say, you kind of share it on the socials and help them gain subs. But let's get into Hargeet, who is not on social media, folks. You're not going to find him there. You can find him on Discord. You can find him on Xbox, but you can't find him on X. And obviously, he does have a YouTube channel. As a matter of fact, he has a YouTube channel that's growing. He does content on a daily basis. As a matter of fact, one of his videos that we were together in LA exploded on the scene. What is it, like 40-something thousand views for the E-Day short that you did, right?
It's 74 or something like that.
Jeez, 74,000 freaking wow, dude. Holy crap. I said 40.
Keeps going.
Wow. That is awesome, dude. That is phenomenal. Love to see it. But you know something? He also wrote a book, and it's available on many places. He's got the title behind him. It is called Emergence. Not Emergence Day, but Emergence. It's a sci-fi novel. I have it sitting right here. I got to finish reading it. Brother, sell your book, sell your YouTube channel, and tell everyone where they can't find you on social media.
If you do want to find me, you can find me Chani on Discord or on Xbox. Yeah, my channel is Hargeet Chani 1. You can subscribe on YouTube. If you want to check out the book, it's a sci-fi novel, Emergence. I kind of based it on a sort of Mass Effect-y like story. You go to shop.chani.us, check that out. Yeah, and you know, good to have you on Black Viking. You're every now and then, right? Every couple of times you're on.
Yeah, he's every couple of weeks he jumps on. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. We should definitely catch up on your show at some point.
Yeah, for sure, man. It's been a while since I had guests on, man. But yeah, for sure.
Well, listen, ladies and gentlemen.
It is like the doldrums of summer. It is kind of like slow, even though today was kind of a bigger day of news.
Yeah.
It is a little slow,
again, I mean, there's news. There's definitely news. Like I said, that's why. I mean, again, when you run 5 shows, you got to read a lot of articles. I read 30 a week easily, and I try to write as much as I can to keep and again, the shows are shorter because news is been a bit stagnant, if you will. Some smaller things in there, but listen, again, there's still 2 shows left for the week. Tomorrow at noon, I'll be sitting down with C Money as I always do for the X Vlog live show. And of course, the big one is going to be Breakfast with Boom, where we're really going to get into the weeds, so to speak, about everything that's happening with Bungie, with PlayStation, with management, with the people that are affected. And of course, that is who we're going to hone on, the 220 people that are now unemployed. That is not a good thing, especially in 2024, where it's just really hard. It is just really freaking hard to continue everyday life with a job. Imagine without one, how difficult that is going to be, especially in Seattle, very expensive place to live, especially California, another place. We were there, Hargeet. Everything is freaking expensive. But that's going to do it. A big thank you to all of the super chats, all of the channel members that continue to come in. FYI, Double Barrel Gaming is 81 subscribers from 15,000. And listen, I'd like to get there by week's end. I don't think that's going to happen because that's a lot. But listen, if you're finding the channel for the first time, please consider subscribing. We do it the right way, right? We're doing it the mom and pop way. And listen, every sub earned is something that we're proud of. And we thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for subscribing, for sharing, for retweeting, any and all of that. We do greatly appreciate. And of course, I'm going to close out the show with something that's incredibly important to me. Hopefully one day be important to you. And that's something that my dad taught us when we were kids. And he would say, Craig, treat others how you want to be treated. And also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, son. I can guarantee you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone. And we'll see you next week on the newest episode of Primetime Gaming with Mr. BoomStick and Friends.